Hello and welcome to the All About Pigeons podcast. We have a very special episode for you today, so stick around. Today we have with us Izzy Hadar from New South Wales in Australia. He has kept Birmingham Roller since the age of 12 and now 50 years old. He joined the Birmingham Roller Club in Sydney in 1995 and is still a current and active member. His achievements in the official Sydney Performing Roller Club are as follows: winning the Nationals in 2006, numerous club wins over the years, qualified Roller World Cup Fly in 2014 and placed fifth, winning the Nationals again in 2016, qualified for World Cup Flies 3 years in a row, winning the club flies for 3 years running overall. He took up racing pigeons in 2014, as he had many great successes in the racing pigeon flies, such as topping the Federation, which is the biggest in Australia, out of 300 plus flyers in the first 3 years of racing. Over the years, topping other federations and producing other winners. Izzy, thanks for coming on and talking with us today.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
How did you get introduced when you were 12 years old to the Birmingham Rollers?
Long story short, try to make it, but it was a tumbler that actually got my interest at first. And when I thought the tumbler was a roller, was a tumbler. So it was the other way around. And being so young, no one explained the difference to me. And when I asked some people, they couldn't explain. They go, you have to see it in real life in order to see the difference. Anyway, I grew up to the age of 15, 16, thinking that these rollers were tumblers, until one of my friends came around one day and he had pigeons as well, and I hadn't seen him for a long period of time. And he goes, I've got rollers myself. I go, man, I'd love to come over and see rollers. I've never seen them before because I've got tumblers. Anyway, when I ran around this place, I seen his birds, when he put them up, they were doing exactly what my birds were doing. I go, my birds do this. And he laughed at me and he said, you've got rollers, you haven't got tumblers. So all these years you've been living in denial knowing that they were tumblers when they're really rollers. So I got my dad's friend gave them to me, and being an ethnic, his English wasn't very well back then, and he gave them to me saying that they were tumblers and brushed me off. That's why, hence the roller. I was calling it a tumbler back then, you know. So yeah, funny way of finding out the difference. But yeah, grew into it. I grew into it, so it was good, and loved the way they performed. And what really fascinated me too, back being that young, is that a bird was coming back home. You know, like it was coming back into a loft and you're looking after and taking care of it, you know, because my dad used to breed canaries and finches. And, you know, if one got out, that was it. They were never coming back. But when a pigeon got out, it was always going to come back, you know. And I was like, wow. And I was just fascinated by the fact that they were coming back home. And plus the acrobats that they were doing in the sky was an extra bonus. I just got blown away. Yeah. So, and never looked back since.
You know, I'm really curious about this because I've heard different things that it's really hard to import birds into Australia. Is it kind of stagnant with bloodlines, or I mean, are you guys still getting new stuff, or is that old news?
Yeah, no, we still get the odd bloodlines in, and then yeah, you're right. It's very hard to get birds into Australia, and it's very expensive too. But over the 20 years, there has been a handful of people that have got them in. But this is the thing that I was always thinking about too. Was got a very good point. You're making a very good point there. Because over a few years goes on, the birds get closer and closer the more and more we breed them. Yeah. So you got to introduce new line, or you got to introduce new something to still keep it, you know, safe and still active without any problems, breeding any problems. So we don't get the general every year a person bringing in Birmingham rollers from other countries. You do get the odd, you know, every now and then we'll hear about, someone in Melbourne imported American birds from America, these rollers from such and such. And you know, we haven't had no imports in for a long time that I'm aware of. And a lot of people have worked on what they've got in here, in this, which is mainly the Masons, the Heiners on the English side. The Canadian side is always the legend Monty Nebels, Canadians. As in breeding and getting too close, you do make a very good point there. So I think most people sort of keep to their own backyard and don't introduce many bloodlines in and keep to their own. And I asked a couple of them, and I said, would your English lines, do you keep like Heiner to Heiner and Mason to Mason and Harper to Harper, for example? And most of the people, to my surprise, they go, yeah, we do, you know, like, which I see you can do that to a certain period of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then after that, you're going to have to try something different. So, you know, why not put your best Heiner to your best Mason? you don't know until you do it. It's going to work better for you or it's not. So I'm a great believer in doing that. All my birds I've got over the years, I've bred over the years. I've crossed best to best, which is the best English to the best Canadians. I call my lofts the hybrid lofts because of that reason, and they've worked so well for me, as in the quality of the roll, the depth of the roll, control of the roll. I found that worked a lot better than I have kept them English to English, Masons to Masons, Highness to Highness, and I found a lot of problems were happening. You're getting roll downs, you're getting crashing, birds crashing on the way out, birds crashing on the way in, and sometimes when the blood was too close, you get them breeding the webs in between the toes as well. And that's a big indication that your bloods are getting very close. So you better introduce something new. So that's why I thought, you know what? I've got a best Canadian I picked out from the sky from one of our flyers. He was only flying Canadians that day. All his life he's been flying Canadians. He's the only Canadian flyer in Sydney, and he had the best. So I picked out one cock, which became my foundation cock over all my best English. And now I've never looked back ever since. They've just been so good for me. I can't go wrong. So if the birds are prey left us alone, it'll even be better. But yeah.
How many birds do you have right now? How many roller birds do you have? And do you break them up into teams or?
Yeah, I do. I got 22 stock pairs and 22 cocks, 22 hens. I got, at the moment, I've got 5 kits, 3 of them being young bird kits, the other 2 being, let's say, semi-young bird, because out here, I've very rarely struggled to have a 3-year-old kit, because by the end of the season, they've all been picked off. I'm probably left with 4 or 5 2, 3-year-olds.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how bad it is for me here. Generally, all year round, my kits are young. I don't get them no older than 3-year-olds. Yeah, I'll breed, anywhere from 3 rounds, 4 rounds every time I put them down to breed. And until I fill my kit boxes up, they'll be anywhere from 30, 35 young in each kit box. I don't fly hens and cocks separate. I never have. And I don't fly young birds and old birds separate. Never have. I just my thought process was just you fly your best of the best, put them all together, and an A team is an A team. Yeah. So that's worked for me over many years. But I have been asking the last couple of years, last year and this year, even with the World Cup judge Brian when he came, and we had our national fly 2 weeks ago again here, and I won that again. So that was another good highlight 2 weeks ago. Got that under the belt, so that was a good feeling. I've been asking, like you fly hens and cocks. What would you rather? Your cocks do better or your hens do better? And a lot of the responses I was getting, yeah, my cocks do good when they're on, and then yeah, my hens do good when they're on. What's the difference if you mix them up together? But if you've got the time to do that too, I suppose it'll be doable. But I don't see much of a difference when it comes to that. I mean, if the birds are on, the birds are on.
Yeah, and they still kid up good and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, look, by the time our fly seasons end, the birds sort of get cocky towards the last fly we have, and that's when you might get that one or two outbursts because they're getting cocky and whatever. But that's it. Your season's over, so you let the birds enjoy their piece a little bit. They've done enough for you for the season. So
yeah, you're part of a roller club down there.
Yeah.
How many members are in the club down there?
Yes, mate. We started off with when I joined the club, there was, we had to fly over 2 days because there were so many of us. There was like 30, 40 members in a small, state like this. Now we've diminished to, like, we've got a good, we've got about 10, 12 members, but real active members will have 6 at best because a lot of them have moved on. And plus the new generation these days, they're bloody, there's no more outside where the kids don't want to go outside and play with birds, play on their bikes and skateboard. So,
right.
Dad can't show them the ropes of the rollers or the race birds, so they don't take the fancy. But that's just the next generation coming up. But our club has kept alive with those handful of members. And what we've been saying is it's more about quality members now, not so much quantity. The members we've got now, they've been around, like Nick Tatoulis. He's done the World Cup. Oh, mate, he in the mid 2000s, I think 5-6 times, and he's placed about all 5 times in the top 10. He put Australia on the map, I reckon, in the World Cup for us. We've had good contenders here in Australia that's placed 3rds, 4ths, 5ths. For a small country like this, we've been up there with the world.
Yeah.
which is always good to see. But the birds we got too are quality birds, like we said, not quantity. So that's why I think the club's still strong and still active, because the handful of members we got, we're committed. We're good camaraderie between us, and we enjoy each other's company. We enjoy watching each other's birds, which is awesome to go into someone's backyard and check out their kit box, check out their stock box, have a look at what they put up. It's awesome to see, you know. So, and especially when the birds are on, it's you can hear a pin drop, yeah, in the backyard. that is what you're chasing. You understand? So, yeah, that's the feeling we're all chasing, I suppose. Yeah.
And I mean, that probably has to help too. I don't know if you guys do lawn shows or if you're exchanging birds to kind of keep everything fresh, but having club members with good birds to kind of go back and forth with.
Yeah, exactly. No, we do. If there's a time there where myself or Nick or Jimmy or one of the other boys need a hen or a cock, for example, okay, if you still got this hen from down this line, can I borrow it, or can I? Yeah, sure. We always help each other out like that, and which is what I think is why I think the club's still going, because the handful of us aren't scared to share our knowledge and our birds around in order to see each other's kits get better and better. That's what I really love about us guys in this club. I mean, but there's a few things in the how can I say it, to make it evolve a bit more, as in not only just our club but the whole roller community in Australia. I don't know about the world, but there's some rules that we need to adjust in our rule books in order to favour our pigeons, in order to favour our rollers, because some of our rules do not give our rollers a chance to showcase what they've got, what we've got in our backyard. As in falcon attacks on fly days, because we fly once a month. I don't know how you guys do it there. We fly the first Sunday or the second Sunday of every month, yeah? So you only get one shot at the title every month. This was another reason why, mostly of the reason why I got into race pigeons, because with race pigeons, it's every Saturday you race. So every week, you got the ability during the week to improve on your birds. So if there's a problem, there's a week for you to fix it, or if something you can, you know what I mean? So, and that's the beauty of it, the science behind it. So with our rollers, we only get the chance to have one shot at the title. Most of the times, 9 out of 10 times, we get smashed by the falcon. So all that hard work, that whole month, prepping those birds up, it got gone down the drain. This is one thing I want to introduce into our club rules, is to fly twice a month, so every fortnight. That way the birds are always active, the birds are always fit, they're always ready to go, twice a month. But then you get some of the older folks, I'm working or I haven't got the time, or it's family time, or which I get. I understand that. I get it. But, if we're committing to one Sunday of the month, that's another Sunday's not two. And we're only there for, an hour max. Another rule I think we should change is when the falcon comes and all the birds come down, you should have, time out where you can gather all your birds up, put them in the kit box, give them a 15-minute break, and it's up to you to keep your score and call it a day, or kick your birds out, get rid of your score and start all over again.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, we've got to give our birds, and plus the flyer, so we don't get disheartened as much, a chance. We're not giving the birds or the flyers in our backyard a chance. So some of the rules we can change in order to favour the birds and the flyers. So all these years, in over 25, 30 plus years I've been in the club, the rules have stayed the same. Nothing has evolved. We've got to sort of look outside of the square now. And I have brought this to my members' attention. And we have implemented that rule where the falcon comes down and we can get our birds back up, settle them down, get them back up and go again. And that rule, our first year, had worked best for the person that wasn't in favor for that rule. Ironically enough.
Teach them a lesson. Man. I mean, there's so many different variables with flying your rollers. You're already dealing with weather and everything else, and then at least with a falcon, you can kind of bring your birds down, let them chill, or turn another kit out if you have another kit that's half decent, and give it another shot.
There you go. You just called another thing. Yeah, let out a different kit if they're up to it. That's right. So, we can't just be blindsided and say, nah, they're the rules. Rules are the rules. And yeah, I understand the rules. I love sticking by rules. Well, I love playing by the rules. But I'm talking about evolving the rules to suit the birds now. Nature has suited the birds. They're getting smashed, but our rules haven't suited the birds. over 30 years. So, it's easy to get disheartened. Like I always said, you got to have the heart of steel to race pigeons, and you got to have patience to fly rollers. I always said that. Yeah, if we can open our minds a little bit, I think it will go a longer way. It'll be more enjoyable.
Can you explain the BOP situation out there? And you had mentioned that they're no longer protected.
They're no longer protected out here, but it's very rarely we get investigated for it. It's very hard out here, unless you're in the suburbs where your next door neighbour's only a metre away, a stone throw away, and do something that's illegal. That's different. You're going to dob you in, whatnot. But out here, being in the rural, I mean, I'm lucky in that sense. But even then, mate, the first year I moved out here, it was like I didn't know what hit me. I didn't know what to do. Honestly, I let out a kid, and I had like goshawks, I had eagles, I had the falcons, and this was all in a matter of 2 minutes. All around me, it was like a swarm of ants everywhere in the sky. All these birds of prey just smashing me. So I asked the other guys, which are mainly race pigeon folks around here, I asked them how they deal with that problem. Not so much the falcon. The falcon, there's a guy down the road that, he can do whatever he wants. Even then, within a day, he another one will replace its spot, and
That's
he'll get
right.
smacked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I asked the other folks, what did you do? Mainly for the goshawk, they're scavengers, yeah. They come down, they do more damage than a falcon. So mainly for the goshawks, they put rabbit traps up. Some guys make their makeshift traps for them and let them go down the road somewhere. And yeah, they deal with it their own way out here.
What about your racers? I mean, is it much of a problem for your racers or mainly just rollers?
I'll let out a team of rollers and I'll let out my race birds. They're far and few in between. I can do that because one's down the acreage and one's up the acreage, so they fly separately as well. And when the falcon does come, he always chooses the rollers, yeah, because he's their prey.
Yeah. No, we have a couple of falconers in our the state club I belong to, and they made a good point. Birmingham rollers look like an injured bird, so they are just like a shining target to those guys. They're spinning like that. They look hurt, look like an easy target, and yeah, they probably are an easier target because of that compared to a racer.
100%. 100%. Yes, exactly. Because put it this way, I'll let out two kids that aren't doing anything, young kids that aren't doing anything, they're just kitten and just flying just to get airtime under them. And then after those two kids, I'll put up my A team. And within a minute or two, because they're breaking and they're working and they look like they're injured, like you said, man, the falcon comes straight into them and takes one. Like this national fly we had, I had 20 birds in there. By the time 2 weeks came over here to judge my place, I'd lost 10 out of the 18 to the falcon.
Dang.
And then I had to replace them with another 10 birds that weren't an 18 bird, but they just had to pick their game up ASAP for in a day or two in order to be a scoreable kit, right? And to my thing, they were, they were the best in Australia that day. I mean, it wasn't a high breaking scores all around Australia due to falcon problems, due to weather, especially some of the guys down the other state cop bad winds. And myself, the falcon just left me alone for the 20 minutes, which I wanted from the falcon gods. And after 20 minutes, the judge even freaked out. The falcon came and smashed them all up. Didn't take it that day, luckily. So, yeah, what do we do? We just got to persevere, I suppose. Don't let them turn you off.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about your race team. So you mentioned that you race pretty frequently, and that's a different club, I'm guessing. You're part of a race club down there as well.
Yes.
So how often do you race, and are your distances changing every time you guys go out?
Oh, yeah. We start from 150 kilometers.
Okay.
I don't know what that miles for you guys, but kilometers, 150. It's only a sprint race. Every Saturday, like so, we basket on the Friday night, and every Saturday we'll be racing, and every third Saturday they move up the next level. So then it'll be like 250 kilometers. So I think they go up anywhere from 100 kilometers every 3 weeks. So the birds will have 3 races from every same race point, and then we'll get up to like this weekend race is from 900 kilometers. It's almost 1,000 kilometer race. So that's going to be a tough race. And yeah, that thing, I love racing my pigeons. They're just the racehorse of the bird world. They're awesome when they're on like with the rollers. When they're switched on to get home. It's just awesome watching them come and dive into that trap. Yeah, and then the most, enjoyable part is going to the club with your clock to see where you've run, the best times and the velocities. And I'm in the toughest club out here where I am in the rural area. In the Federation, I'm in the toughest club in the Federation here. And we are the biggest federation here in Australia, in Sydney. We start off from anywhere from, a lot has dropped off, but I think 250 members now. Anywhere those sprint races go, anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 birds from the liberation point. I mean, that's a lot of birds,
that's
man.
Awesome. Yeah.
It's awesome to watch, and it's awesome to watch them come home. But the workload for them are a little bit more than with the rollers, because you got to get on the road, you got to get them out on in the baskets, you got to toss them a lot, you got to get their minds onto the job. As soon as they get out the basket, boom, they come straight home. There's no circling around, and their health has to be impeccable. They got to be fit, like fit like an athlete. Everything has to be correct. Their food has to be on point. The water, vitamins, minerals have to be on point. The birds have got to be no sicknesses in the loft. So you got to look for all these things. So, and then in my club, I think there's about 16 members just in my club alone, and all 16 of these members are quality members, man. Like, those guys import birds from Belgium, England. They're just from all over the world, and they breed them. And here I am with my pet shop race birds, which I call them, my pet shop pigeons, racing up against world-class birds, that which is good. It's a good thing, because it makes me want to go even harder and better. So
what do you do to get your birds ready for a race?
once they start working around the loft for an hour and they start ranging out and the season comes, like a month before the race season starts, I'll watch them. As soon as they start ranging away from the loft and they come and go, they're ready to be basketed and do a lot of road work, what we call it. So you start loading them up in the baskets every morning, and I'll take them to a liberation point. First liberation point for me will be anywhere between 5 to 10 kilometers. I'll do a couple of short tosses from there, what we call tosses. We liberate them from there. And then, for the 2 weeks straight, every day for 2 weeks, I'll do that until I get up to 100 kilometers. Once I've gotten up to 100 kilometers in that 2 weeks, by the end of that 2 weeks, the birds are coming home to a nice light meal of, wheat, barley, milo, saff, not so much peas on the early days, and no corn. I like to give corn as energy the night before basketing to blow them out, give them their energy so they can digest. Digestion is a very important thing in pigeons, because you don't want them to have an empty stomach when they're racing and they're not weighed down, so they don't gas way home. So after that 2 weeks, I'll give them a few club tosses as well. So we'll send them with the club birds to that 100 kilometers, and they'll all get liberated at the same time, just to teach them to break away from the mob. So if home's this way, they know to break to go that way, and just little things like that. So after the 2 weeks, when I've done that, they should be, they're pretty much ready for basketing, and racing. And we got limit of 23 birds per week we can send to the race. So you pick out your best 23 on the Friday, and you go to your club, you basket them, and we'll put our benzing on, and it's always first.
When you're doing your training, do you go in all 4 directions, or do you know which way you're going to be releasing?
Yes, yeah. The Federation normally tells us, it gives us a flight schedule and a route schedule. So this year we all flew from the southwest. Next year we'll be flying from the west. So it always works from left to right, as in we start from the south, southwest, west, northwest, and north. So north being the hardest point. Something about the north racing where birds just absolutely get smashed. You hardly get birds home from 100 kilometers. It's just something about the north that people just don't want to fly, but it makes a tough pigeon. You get pigeons home from the north, there's tough pigeons, man. You get birds home from the south, they're blowhomes. They're soft. That they had tailwind. Predominantly, it's that time of the season we have tailwinds. See, from the south, because we go from south, and when it warms up, when we start getting the northerlies. I reckon best route is west. But even then, the winds decide on the race world, the winds decide which corner's going to win. Yeah. For example, if we're racing from the west, straight up the guts, and we have a southerly, everyone up at the north's going to be topping the federation. Unless you get a smart pigeon that says, no, I'm going headwind and pulls out, says, this way's home. Otherwise, they do a long track around, and this is vice versa. And if you get a northerly, the guys down south are going to, win it. And like if we get it like south from the southwest, because I'm the longer marker out here, we're the longer marker, we get a bit of tailwind. The longer markers are always going to smash the shorter markers because they're flying a high velocity on a longer distance. So the federation normally sets a good schedule from start to finish, dates and all, and the routes. And they put out liberation times and everything too for everyone to see, which they're pretty well organized. So we're pretty lucky in that sense out here.
The racing clubs are all over that place, all over the whole country, and it seems
Yeah.
really, really strong out there. What about one loft races? Are there many one loft races in Australia?
Yeah. I did my one loft race myself here. Blue Hills one loft race. We did that 2022 and 2023. Yeah, 2022 being our first one. We got just over 800 pigeons into the loft, and it was good. It was a good experience. A lot of work, which wasn't a problem. Again, the birds of prey didn't give me that opportunity to shine. You have birds dropping off, and then it was a lot of. Put it this way: you had to have very thick skin to run a one loft race. Yeah,
Yeah,
especially here when you've got the biggest federation in the country in your backyard, and you don't have the best of support. You got to have thick skin. Anyway, so the following year we did it again, and our prize money was big. Our first year, we honoured it. We honoured the 50K out there. We honoured the 30, 40K the following year. And, our prize money was good overall. And honestly, doing all this hard work and no one's seeing it. Only the handful will understand it. And then, putting the birds up and then getting shit returns home was very, very heartbreaking, man. Like it really, really messed with my mind, messed with my heart. I was like, far out, like I can't do this again because not so much about the criticism. It's just the hard work that I was putting in. What am I doing wrong? I know I'm not doing nothing wrong. I left no stone unturned. But there's always that problem out there where you're never going to know until, slaps you in the face. But I just could not go through that again. Go put myself through that stress again. But it was a good experience. And honestly, having that many birds racing home was great to watch. It was awesome to do. We don't have many one loss. I was one of them. And after me, so there's, I think, 2 or 3 left in the country from memory. There's one guy in Melbourne. He's doing well. There's another couple in Queensland. They're doing great. And there's one more in Adelaide. So basically we had one in each state. And since I stopped here, no one loft in Sydney anymore. But I think there's one in every state, which is great to have, I think, because to me, that's true racing, yeah? If you want to see how good your birds are, I mean, one loft birds are different, can be different, bred different, but it's a good race, good concept because they're all racing to the one loft. Now, if the winds aren't in their favour, only the smart birds are going to shine. So that's that point, right? To do a one loft here in Sydney, you got to have thick skin, and my skin wasn't thick enough.
I tell you, it's interesting, So here in the States, one loft races are just popping up like weeds, just all over the place. Whereas there's racing clubs for sure in all the different states. Everyone has their little racing clubs, but I feel like
Yeah.
the one loft races here, they outnumber the race club mentality a lot
Wow.
more. And you talk to the guys who all they do is one loft racing and they don't do club racing. And it's
Yeah.
more of like a stock sense, like you were saying with the breeding, it's different
Yeah.
than, when you're racing your birds, you're watching your birds, every detail about what's going on and how to change things. And
Yep.
yeah, it's a different animal doing one loft races, that's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. They're a different bird. They're a different way of breeding, I think. So I reckon you're right. And tell me, in America, there was a loft. I forgot what he was called, but he was one of the biggest. I was watching him on YouTube, and he far out. He had like 10,000 pigeons, man, and he had that. It was on the farm. The loft was on like a L-shaped loft, and he had a massive net over it. I remember. Yeah, he sort of blew me away. Far out. I forgot what it was called, but yeah, you're right. There is a lot of them in America. I've noticed. I think why a lot of people are going to one loft races. You'll find that a lot of the older folks as well that's had their birds and they're retired. They still sort of want to still be in the hobby. So in order to get their thrill and still enjoy it, they send birds to their one loft race. Actually, we're in a one loft race today. Actually, the Queensland one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they liberated at 7 o'clock this morning. So from 500 kilometers, it will take them a good 8, 9 hours to get home. So we support them. Like I said, look, I like to support everything. So I support the guy in Melbourne. I support the one in Queensland. And also have a bit of fun. We win, we win. And I can also look at how my birds perform there in order to improve my stock, like you was just saying. So I think the one-off races, like I said, a lot of the old folks too, because it's getting hard now racing. It's getting expensive now racing. So a lot of these folks are more content to breed their birds and send them to their one-off, pay the one-off fee, and watch them work from there, which is a good concept. I reckon it's great, and I think that's going to be the future. You'll see.
Do you send individually, or does your club all get together and send a basket?
Yeah, no, individually we do individually. Like I've sent, I think 11 and 10 to each one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the clubs. So anyone can, anyone can send birds. It doesn't have to be through a club. But you get most people, 9 out of 10 people really like that concept here in Australia. But you get the 1%ers, they think it's unfair, and and I've heard it all because I had my one-off race. And I heard that a one-off race isn't the fairest race at all either. And when I asked why, the guy said, well, if you're sending one bird and he's sending 10 birds, how's that fair?
I mean, if you send the exact same bird and that guy sends 10 of the exact same birds, then yeah, that's not fair. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, cream rises to the top in that scenario. That's how one loft races work.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. So, but nothing stopping you from sending another 10 birds, So there's that too. But like I said, you got to have thick skin. But it's so enjoyable, the hobby. And I think the way the future is one-off racing, because this generation, there's no more of these teenagers going in their backyards with dad anymore and watching what dad does with the birds or whatever. They're inside doing the new generation stuff. Now I think the only way dad's going to enjoy his hobby for the rest of his life is going to be sending them to one-off races, and it's becoming an expensive hobby. I don't know how it is in the States there, but for someone here in Australia to start racing pigeons from scratch with just an average loft, average setup and foods and all that, whatever, minimum 15K, build your loft, get good birds, and get all your clocks, get all your chips, get all your vitamins, minerals, the food, the grain. The list goes on. Baskets, you got to get baskets. You haven't got a ute to tow them in. You got to get a ute as well. So it's not easy just to say, I'm going to go race pigeons next year. You got to really, really be set up for it, and it's an expensive hobby. But yeah, if you can do it. But it's getting very, very expensive. I remember when I started in 2014 racing pigeons, I was buying a bag of 20-kilo wheat for $12, and it was dynamite wheat. It was like glass; you could see through. It was beautiful, man. By 2018, 2019, that same 20-kilo bag of wheat was $25.
Doubled. Wow.
$25. I'm like, nah, man. Like, so instead of buying, 10 bags, you're buying 5 bags now, How with the grain situation with you guys there? Is it quality grains, or is it grain you're chasing, that shit grain or nice grain? What do you get there?
A lot of the roller guys are doing wheat, and I use pellets myself, just because,
Oh,
it's every pellet has the exact same amount of stuff in it, and it's
yeah,
easier to do. But especially with rollers, those guys are really specific on breaking down the feed and carbohydrates and energy and stuff like this, build them up, break them down. So I
yes,
get splitting it up that way. But yeah, it's still expensive. I think that's when it comes down to quality over quantity if you can do it,
yeah.
because you can feed a bad bird the same amount of food as a good bird.
Yeah, man. But tell me, Phil, with the pellets, how's the droppings of the birds?
Good. They just like anything else, like whenever you change the food on a bird, the droppings get funny for a day or so. But I
Yeah,
mean the droppings on these guys, 100%, they just they're healthy droppings and white cap and everything else.
they go nice hard round droppings. Yeah, like
Just like, yeah, normal hard dropping, white on top, real clean.
okay.
and they do good with it. I don't belong to a race club. I do releases with my homers, and they all get home good. I haven't clocked them or anything because I'm doing this by myself, but they breed well on it. I use a 16%. And then that's good for them during the breeding season. Right now, we're finishing up the molt and kind of coming to the end of the breeding season and stuff like that too. But I've been really happy with them, honestly. Yeah, they do really well.
Okay, nice. You don't add nothing with the pellets, just straight pellets?
Yeah, just straight pellets.
Okay, and other sources like grits, do you give them grits
I
or?
I do give them grit, and some people who do pellets say don't. You don't need to, and they say you don't need to give them eggshells because, and it's true. Like if you look at the ingredients, you'll see that they actually have that material like calcium and stuff in there for them to help break it all down. But I still give them oyster shells, especially during breeding season when they're creating a bunch of eggs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Okay, that's interesting. Look, I've only come across maybe two people here in Australia that said they race on pellets as well, and that's everything's great. Droppings are great, and some of them, I think one of them has been very successful, always up there in the point scores. So it works, I suppose. Hey, but you're right. The roller guys, yeah, they got to cut them up, break them down, give them the energy, break them down. What I'm very big on is making sure the roller's crop is empty as. There's not one bit of grain in the crop because obviously the velocity that they're spinning, what is it, 10 to 12 revolutions a second or more,
Yeah.
something like that. So can you imagine if they had a bit of food in the crop and they were spinning that fast, those birds are going to be shot after that. So my biggest thing is digestive system on a pigeon must be impeccable. Otherwise, they're not going to perform. In racing pigeons or rollers, that's what I've come to found. And coming back to giving them the grit, I like to feed my rollers grit, as in the red brick grit from Belgium. They absolutely love that. And I don't like giving grit separate. I like to give it with their grain. So when they're pecking, they can always have the grit there to peck and eat as well. So at the end of the feed, the tray is empty from grit and the seed. I'm not giving them too much grit either. So it's overly packed. Like a lot of people give a big bowl of grit. I don't like doing that because it's a waste. They don't like eating too much of it then they just, they get turned off. But if you give it to them minimal in with their food, I notice my birds, they absolutely love it. And that red brick breaks down their digestive system so well by the next morning. You can see in the droppings that everything is out. Like they're just so, thinged out. And the droppings a nice white crown on them and dry. So I'm very, very big on that. But even with my race birds, they don't stop getting grit until I basket them. The day before I basket them, I won't give them the grit, you know. But I'll load them up on the high carbs, on the high carbohydrates, like the corns and that, or Milo, wheat staff. Yeah, basket them. But then the next morning, I'll give them as much as they want to eat the day before. And the next morning, there won't be one piece of grain in their crop because their digestive system's so well. But then they're loaded with energy, yeah? So when they're out of the basket, they should know what to do, hopefully. No, man, it's like with the rollers and the race birds, I enjoy both of them. I mean, it can be hard work sometimes, but I'm lucky enough to have the time for them. And with my one loft race, maybe one day next year or the year after, we might announce it again, see how we're going, because I do want to do it and I don't, because my wife helped me out a lot on the admin side of it, paperwork and the benzing side, the computer side and all the social media side. I didn't want to put her under that stress as well again, because, she was under the pump as well. And she didn't tell me, she won't tell me, she'll just put a smile on her face and do it for me, but I know that it has been a bit stressful, and I don't want to put her through that again, just for my, for my liking. So with that as well on board, I didn't want to take on the responsibility of doing the one loft again this year again, but in the next year or two, maybe, because my loft is still up there. It's a massive 22 by 5 meter loft, 11 sections. It can hold up to 1,200 pigeons. It's got the graded floors, the 50 by 50 fiberglass flooring I got from China, put that all down. So that made life a lot easier, as in keeping them clean, scraping no floors. I was just scraping perches. And the perches were those perches where they slide back. So with the scraper, they will just go straight through. Yeah, that was a lot more manageable. To have a loft like that, you can manage anywhere to 800 to 1,000 pigeons without, having to scrape floors and that. So that was the bonus. But yeah, and then you got to have the big transporter to, transport,
Yeah, if you already got the infrastructure, that was probably the really hard part to get put up.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got the I built that all by myself through the COVID. Yeah. What does a pigeon flyer do, right?
Build another loft, I guess.
uh, yeah, I was just out there every morning, like, because you had no work to go to. You couldn't leave your house, and I had no excuse. So I just locked it up, and now that I look at it, I think, man, did I build that thing out there? It's huge. Well, I look at it, I go, no, I didn't do that. No, and Mrs. goes, you did. You're crazy. You did. So, but it's beautiful.
You could just breed 800 to 1,000 birds yourself out there and have a nice flock.
Yeah, easy. I could do that easily. You're right. Yeah, I'm going to race out of it next year coming. Interesting to see how they go. I'm breeding myself a small team. Yesterday, I let my young ones out for the first time. First round of 20. Second round, I've got 30 coming. So that's a good round, the second round. I'll probably have 150 this next year. A small team, you can manage and they work a bit better. I don't know. What about you? What would you rather? How many birds would you breed a year?
I'm more about the colors and stuff, because like I said, I just fly for myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I was in a club though, I mean, yeah, I would, just like with rollers or showbirds or whatever, just start with really good stock and go from there, breed as many as long as they're good.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, look, it's very hard to find get a good pigeon, but a race pigeon. And sometimes they say, you get what you paid for. Yeah, so you might buy a bird for anywhere from 5 to 10K, and it's not always going to guarantee you to breed you a winner. But if it breeds you a pigeon, you should be happy with that. I mean, I like to, like I've said with my rollers, I don't buy champions, I make champions. To get them, to breed them and breed them and breed them and breed them, watch them fly and breed them, watch them fly and breed them, and then create your own and watching them work and nailing it. And you're going, yes, I did that. That's the feeling I like about it. So I mean, with the race birds, it's a little bit different. I've brought cheap birds. I've got birds given to me. I've got hand me downs, and I've bred them and I've bred them. Well, a funny story, just quickly. My best pigeon, my triple winner. I had a guy in one of our clubs. I highly respect him and I appreciate him for helping me. He came over one day and he goes, "I'm going to sort out all your pigeons for you. We're going to pair them up the way I reckon they should be paired up," and blah blah blah. Because he was a great handler of racing pigeons. He's been in it and he's won a number of prizes. Flies, races. Anyway, so he's gone to my stock cage and he's handling these birds. He goes, "What's this rubbish doing in here? I wouldn't feed this thing." Chuck it over there. you know. And anyway, he went through the whole loft like that, and he ended up pairing, I think, 6 to 7 pairs. And after he left, I had all these empty breeding boxes, and I had a box full of these rubbish birds that he said. And I thought, what, just to make up numbers, I'll pair those rubbish birds up the way I think they're right, and just to make up numbers. So I did that. And the following year, anyway, we didn't race because we had the COVID. So I had a handful of those birds left over as 2-year-olds. And there was one red checker. I sent him to his first race, and he came runner-up, and he came third federation. He came runner-up in the club and third federation. I said, okay. So, then we had the second lockdown. So then the following year, raced him again. Same thing, first race. He came first. This time he came first club, second federation. I said, okay, no worries. So we sent him again, the second race. He came first club, first federation. I thought, oh, wow, this guy, sorry, the second race, he came first club, third federation. So the third race, I gave him a break in between. Then I sent him to his third race. And that when I gave him that break in between, one of the members in the club goes, "Are you sending that red cock again?" I go, "No, not this weekend, mate. Giving him a break." They go, "Well, you got fuck all chance of winning then."
Nice.
Yeah, great mates. And so when I sent him the third time, yeah, he ended up coming first and winning the federation. And I was like, wow, this pigeon's, I've got something special here, He was always 5 minutes in front of the second pigeon. And he'd never give me a chance to show him the fantail. He knew the job from start to finish. Come home, straight in the box. No problem. Didn't waste time. When it won that race, I said, man, this bird shouldn't have won that race today, right? Because the winds weren't in his favour. And he actually went against the wind. And this is what really gave my respect to that pigeon, is when it won without the wind in his favour, because that to me is a smart pigeon. It's actually got some brains in its head in order to win that race. So he became a triple winner, and I raced him 5 times. He came three winners and 2 seconds, and he always placed in the top 10 all 5 times, and in the federation. And I was like, wow, I've got something special here. So predominantly his babies and his grandchildren from last year and this year is what I'll be racing for next year. So hopefully, one or two of them come through. Even if you get one come through, it's a good result, yourself. Yeah, so my rollers. I like hybrids. I like best to best. I don't know why these people keep separate, bloodlines separate. I don't see the point. They don't. I don't know. Anyway, each to their own. But I put the best Canadian to my best English, and my best English to my other best English. And over the years, now my hybrid loft, everything I look in there is either quarter Canadian or quarter English, or quarter half Canadian, half English. And mate, I have not looked back at all. And I'm so confident in my stock birds, and I'm so confident in my kit birds, that if I do introduce birds, it will probably just be another one or two hens, or a hen or cock from next play, or someone I know anyway. I'm going to pick out of the sky, but that won't be for a long time, because I'm happy with what I got. It's been 25 years in the making, that family of mine. I had the foundation cock pass away 6 months ago. Yeah, I was pretty upset, man. It was that 17, 18-year-old bird.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've got a whole family off him in there, and beautiful. It's a Mealy family. Love the colours, love the birds. I just, I can't get enough of those guys. So hopefully next year we qualify for the World Cup again, and we can actually place in the top 10.
Yeah.
That's our goal, So I mean, meeting the World Cup judge, I've met them all. I've met Heiner Baker. I met Graham Dexter. He's the guy that wrote the book on rollers. I met a couple that came from South Africa. They were gentlemen. South Africa, Birmingham roller guys are professional Birmingham flyers. Same with the UK guys. I see them very, very, they're strong flyers. They're very, very knowledgeable people, especially South Africa. They're crazy over there over rollers, aren't they? They got just as many roller flyers as race flyers, yeah?
Yeah, it's getting big over there, yeah.
Yeah. So, and look, for us here in Australia, like I said, we're only a small country and small club here in Sydney, there in Melbourne, and everywhere else. We're always up there in the World Cup. Australia's always up there. So if every year we'll be up there, top 10, top 15, we'll be showcasing our stuff. We have got quality pigeons here in our backyard. Guys just need to work on them or outcross them. When I say outcross them, you're putting the English to English anyway. So what if it's from Heiner? So what's from Harper?
Yeah.
Right? It's an English. Canadians, I'm putting, let's say you're going to put a Canadian or a Montenegro Canadian to is it Ween's Canadian? They're all the same. They're the Canadians. You just put your best to your best. We've got a flyer here when I chose the Nationals years ago. I went to his backyard and he had about 10 sections, 10 compartments, like 2 meter by 2 meter compartments. And each compartment was separate. He had one compartment, he had all his Masons. Another compartment, he had all his Heiners. Another compartment, he had all his Harper. Compartment, he had, the Shackletons. And the list just went on. I'm like, wow, And out of all those birds, the ones that got my attention were the Harpers. The Harpers looked slightly different. All the other ones, they looked longer. They had the longer beak. They had the longer head. They had the longer body. And they looked slimline. I don't know. There's something about them I like. And they all predominantly mealies. Mealy, baldy, mealy, badge, mealy, odd sides, You could see it was a nice close family. I ended up acquiring one of those birds, and she became my foundation hen to most of the ones I got here as well. I put her over Heiner. I put her over my best Masons. Masons are solid anyway. I reckon Masons are the solid all-rounder English roller. Because predominantly everyone out here in Australia that's got rollers are Mason line, predominantly, yeah? It's helped a lot of people. I mean, in America, there's a lot of non-Mason flyers, yeah?
You see the Mason bloodline a lot. It's still pretty popular up here. I mean, Pensum, Mason.
Yeah.
This definitely still around. That's for sure. The South Africans are getting pretty popular too. And yeah, some of those are getting pretty hot.
Yeah, nice. What I noticed with American flyers, though, two things. One, they like to concentrate on color, which is great. I get that. And two, I don't like the way they got their kit boxes set up. A lot of them, I watch on YouTube, I see, and like Heiner made this point a few years back, you've got them in this dark box under the sun.
Yeah.
The birds, there's no air, no nothing. What's going on, man? Guys, help the birds out, man. They're suffocating. They need air. They need sunlight. They need direct sunlight. First thing in the morning, last thing in the afternoon. I don't know who came up with this concept of having rollers in a dark box. That never worked for me. I did that for my first couple of years, and I just found it wrong. I just didn't like it. And ever since then, I designed my own loft, my own kick boxes where it's predominantly like the English styles, where they're in a kit box and I've got a massive fly pen in front of them and massive doors. It's the best way you can manage the birds. They always get airflow. They get direct sunlight. They're out of the weather. It's awesome. The birds look awesome. They molt even better. The featherings come stronger. Yeah, I just don't see the point in putting them in the dark box.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sometimes I'm like, man, you could almost put these things in a Foot Locker. They're so tiny.
Put them on the rotisserie, man. Poor buggers. They need that fresh air, man. And
Yeah.
I'll get the idea behind it. Yeah, the birds are itching to go out and then fly and they perform more.
Right.
It's never, I don't know, I've never seen them. I let my birds out and they perform regardless. You got to have that bird, you got to have the confidence in your birds. So when you let them out, they're going to perform. Yeah, sure, you might get those shit days, but they're never going to come out of a dark box and perform every time either. If anything, they go backwards. But that's the two things Americans are, and there's a lot of them there. There's a lot of flyers in America.
Oh, yeah.
If one day, I'd love to judge the World Cup one day just to experience it. I'd love to come to America and just check it all out, because there's so many flyers there, but they all just sort of stick to color and those dark kick boxes, man. If they get rid of those dark kick boxes, make nice aviaries in front of those kick boxes and put dowel doors on those kick boxes, they're birds. They'll have performers in there they never knew they had before. I can guarantee you that, So, yeah, I'd just love to come and experience it one day. That's why the last World Cup judge, and I ask them every time the same question. Which is the best setup you've seen in which country? Like best kit box, best stock loft. I ask them that question all the time because to me, someone's kit box and someone's loft, it tells me a lot about that person, yeah? The way it's designed, the way it's built, the way it's looked after. I ask him the same question all the time. And then he said this guy from Sparks, Axel Sparks. He said Axel Sparks had the best setup. He says, I love the way his birds, the perches were set up, the way the kit boxes were set up, looking in the sun, first thing in the morning, last thing at night. And he was the first one that's ever said that to me about rollers. I was like, yes, because we're very big on that with the race birds. So, to experience that, I would love to do the World Cup judging one day, if I ever win it, to come across to doing it. That'll be awesome. I won't say no. But before I get any older either.
Well, we're coming up against the clock on this one. I wish you good luck in your upcoming flies. And yeah, man, if you ever do get up there and get that big win and become a judge, man, that'd be great to have you here in the States judging some of the flies out here.
Oh, it'll be awesome. Thank you very much. And hopefully, it does happen in the future one day. We're going to keep at it. So let's see how we go. And I really appreciate you having me on this show. It's been awesome talking about something we love doing.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the All About Pigeons podcast. Please help the pigeon hobby by telling your fellow club members or other pigeon friends about the podcast, and make sure to leave a good review or at least a 5-star for the podcast wherever you listen. If you have a topic or a person you want to hear more about on the podcast, or if you yourself would like to be a guest, just send an email to allaboutpigeonspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.